Amazfit versus Garmin 2026, and I'm going to give you the answer up front because it's not the answer you'll hear on most channels. Garmin really does cost double. In one case, it costs triple. That part is not a myth, and I have the price tags to prove it. So the real question is not whether Garmin is expensive. It's when that premium is actually worth paying. And after pricing every single one of these watches on Amazon this week, the honest answer is exactly two situations. Everywhere else, you are lighting money on fire. And there is one Garmin in this lineup that is straight up robbery. It is not the expensive one, which is what everybody assumes. I'll tell you exactly which one at the end, and I'll show you the receipts. Let's get into it. Quick context, because 3 years ago this video would have been a joke. Back then, Amazfit was the cheap watch that lost GPS lock the second you ran between tall buildings. Garmin was in a different league. End of story. That is over. In 2026, mid-range and high-end Amazfit watches ship with dual-band multi-constellation GPS, AMOLED screens you can actually read in direct sun, and battery life that makes Garmin look bad. The Amazfit T-Rex 3 runs for 27 days. The Garmin in that same category does not come close. So here's the trap I want you to avoid. Most comparison videos take Garmin's list price and stack it against Amazfit's sale price. Do that, and of course Garmin looks like a ripoff. I did the opposite. Street price against street price on Amazon this week. And what came out is more interesting than either side of the internet wants to admit. Let's start at the bottom. Under $100, the Amazfit Bip 6 is the pick, $79.99. You get a 1.97-inch AMOLED screen, 14 days of battery, built-in GPS with maps, over 140 sport modes, and 5 ATM water resistance, so the pool is not a problem. Now here is where I'm going to be straight with you because most videos leave this part out. Garmin does have something down here. The Forerunner 55 is $129 right now on Amazon. But look at what that $50 jump actually buys you. The Forerunner 55 is a 2021 watch, memory in pixel screen, not AMOLED, no maps, a fraction of the sport modes. You are paying $50 more for older hardware in exchange for the Garmin ecosystem. My take, and it's a firm one, if this is your first serious smartwatch and you are not yet sure the running habit is going to stick, the Bip 6 is the smart buy. $80 to find out what you actually want beats $250 to discover you quit in March. Round 1 goes to Amazfit. Now the daily driver tier, and this is the chapter Garmin is not going to enjoy. In the Amazfit corner, the Active 2, $99.99, GPS with maps, AMOLED display, NFC payments, over 160 sport modes, 10 days of battery, 5 ATM. In the Garmin corner, the Vivoactive 6, $299.99. Run that math with me, $300 against $100. The Garmin costs 3 times as much, not double, triple. And for that extra $200, here is what you actually get, a better ecosystem, which is real. Garmin Connect is a genuinely good app with a real community, and metrics like body battery are well executed, plus 11 days of battery. That is the complete list. So let me say this as plainly as I can, and Garmin can come at me for it. The Vivoactive 6 at this price is the worst deal in Garmin's entire catalog. Not because it is a bad watch. It isn't. It's because the Amazfit Active 2 does substantially the same job for a third of the money, and Garmin's own Forerunner line gives you more watch for barely more cash. That is the robbery I promised you in the intro. If you want a daily driver that tracks your workouts and does not gut your wallet, the Active 2 is the call, and the $200 you keep is worth more than a badge system. This is where Garmin starts earning its money, and it's also where I found the weirdest thing in this entire lineup. Garmin launched the Forerunner 70 and the Forerunner 170 back in May as its new entry-level running watches. The 70 is $249.99. The 170 is $309.99, and it adds an altimeter, Garmin Pay, and a music version. But now look at this. The older Forerunner 165 is sitting at $225.30 on Amazon right now. That is cheaper than the brand new Forerunner 70, and the spec sheet shows the 165 with the better display and the deeper feature set. Read that again. Garmin's newer entry watch costs more and gives you less. That is not an opinion, that's the price tag and the spec sheet side by side. So my pick in this tier is the Forerunner 165 at $225. It is the best value in Garmin's entire running lineup right now, and almost nobody is telling you that because it's last year's model. And this is the tier where Garmin finally justifies the money. The moment you go from asking, how far did I run, to asking, how well am I training? Garmin is in another league. Training load, race predictor, Pace Pro, which paces you kilometer by kilometer based on the elevation of your actual route. Amazfit hands you the numbers. Garmin tells you what to do with them. For someone chasing a race time, that gap is worth real money. And speaking of gear that actually moves the needle, I've put the full Technorama Runner kit for 2026 in the description and the pinned comment. The watch I'd pick at every budget, the chest strap that genuinely improves heart rate accuracy, and the free app that gets more out of your data. Now the real battleground. The runner with a plan and a goal. Amazfit brings the Balance 3, which launched in June, $369.99, and it is a beast. AMOLED with sapphire glass, 21 days of battery, a built-in flashlight, 64 gigabytes of storage, a dedicated HYROX mode. Garmin answers with the Forerunner 265. $449.99. So the Garmin is $80 more expensive. And that $80 is the most important $80 in this whole video because it is the exact price of Garmin's training brain. Here's the honest math on it. On pure tracking, this is close to a tie. Independent testing over a 7.5-kilometer run put an Amazfit Balance against a high-end Garmin, and the two finished within 30 meters of each other. 30 meters. For the vast majority of runners, that is a rounding error. But the second you start following an actual training plan, Garmin pulls away. Training load tells you how much damage you're carrying. The race predictor tells you the time you're actually on pace to run. Recovery tells you when to back off. Amazfit gives you a pile of data and a somewhat aggressive interpretation of it. Garmin gives you a coach. So here's my verdict. And it depends entirely on one thing. If you run because it feels good and you want your data logged accurately, the Balance 3 is outstanding and you keep $80. If you are training for a race and your plan depends on load and recovery, pay the $80. The Forerunner 265 earns it. That is the first of the two cases where I think Garmin's premium is genuinely worth it. Off to the backcountry. Amazfit T-Rex 3, $226.09. Garmin Instinct 3 Solar, $349.99. That's a $124 gap. The Garmin is 55% more expensive. This is a real difference, not a rounding error, so it deserves a real answer. The T-Rex 3 is an absurd amount of watch for the money. AMOLED display, dual-band GPS across 6 satellite systems, offline maps, military-grade durability certification, and 27 days of battery. 27. For a weekend hiker, it is genuinely hard to ask for more. The Instinct 3 Solar answers with the thing Garmin does better than anyone: bulletproof reliability. 10 ATM of water resistance, double the Amazfit's 5. Military standard as well, solar charging that extends battery life on long routes where there is no outlet for days. And Garmin's navigation, which out in the backcountry, when you are genuinely lost, is not a luxury feature. It is a safety feature. So my call splits cleanly. Day hikes and weekend trails, the T-Rex 3 is the smart money, and it is more watch than you need. Real backcountry, multi-day routes, no cell service, the Instinct 3 Solar earns that $124 on water resistance and navigation alone. That is the second and final case where I think Garmin's premium is worth paying. 2 cases? That's it. Remember that? Because the rest of this lineup does not get a pass. Last tier above $400, and here the price gap stops being a debate and starts being a canyon. Amazfit's top runner on Amazon right now is the Cheetah 2 Pro at $449.99. And a heads up, the Cheetah 2 Ultra, the titanium flagship, is not actually sold on Amazon in the US, so I'm leaving it out. I'm only recommending things you can actually buy. Garmin's answer is the Forerunner 970 at $749.99, or the Fenix 8, which will run you $1,104. So do the subtraction. $300 separates the Amazfit from the Garmin. And if you step up to the Fenix, you are talking about a $650 difference for a wrist computer. Here is where I have to be careful because it would be easy to just say buy the Garmin and move on. The truth is more useful than that. If you are an elite athlete who lives inside training data, who races seriously, who needs mapping and multiband accuracy in the mountains, Garmin has 15 years of algorithm work and a massive community behind it. And the Forerunner 970 is the better instrument. But for everyone else, and that is most people watching this, $300 is $300. It's a pair of running shoes, a race entry, and a coaching session. The Cheetah 2 Pro tracks your runs accurately and costs $300 less. Be honest with yourself about which of those two people you actually are. Let's put it all together because this is the part worth writing down. Garmin does cost double. That is not marketing spin from Amazfit fans. That's the price tag on Amazon. And that premium is worth paying in exactly two situations. One, you follow a real training plan and you need training load, recovery, and race prediction. Two, you go into real backcountry where navigation is safety, not a feature. Outside those two cases, Amazfit is the rational buy in 2026, and it isn't close. And the robbery I promised you at the top, it's the Vivoactive 6, $300, for a watch the $99 Active 2 substantially matches. 3 times the price. It's not the Phoenix, it's not the flagship. It's the one sitting in the middle that most people buy thinking they made a sensible choice. Quick recap you can screenshot. First watch, under $100, Amazfit Bip 6. Best daily driver, Amazfit Active 2. Best value in Garmin's whole running line, the Forerunner 165 at $225. Serious race training, Garmin Forerunner 265. Real backcountry, Garmin Instinct 3 Solar. And the one to avoid, the Vivoactive 6, unless you find it deeply discounted. One last thing, and this matters. These prices move every single week. Everything I quoted is what Amazon is charging today. Check the live price before you buy because a good sale can flip any recommendation in this video. If this saved you money or saved you from a bad buy, subscribing helps the channel more than you'd think. And if you're stuck between two specific models, drop your budget and your sport in the comments. That's where I can actually help. See you in the next one.